Welcome to a new episode of Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid Ahmed. It's been a while since we last spoke. It was awesome speaking to you the last time.
Yeah, man. Same here. It was wonderful meeting you.
Yeah, it was great meeting you. We learned a lot about each other.
Yeah.
And since then, I have been, on that path to learn
Yeah.
and expand. And
It's
essentially,
fantastic.
yeah, it's been amazing journey. And since then, I have started a podcast myself.
Yeah.
Since we last spoke, I was talking about telling you that
hmm
I started beekeeping,
Yeah.
and
How's that going with the beekeeping? That
it's
must be pretty fascinating. You have an
it is
entire colony.
it is pretty fascinating. I have two colonies.
Wow.
One colony, I'm not sure if they're going to make through the winter because they
Mm.
have not done a good job in collecting enough honey to go through the winter. The other
Okay.
colony is local, and they
hmm
have done a great job in collecting honey and getting pollen stores and getting all of that going.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I've given both of them about 5 gallons of honey over the last weekend, and the
Okay.
hive that I was hoping that would consume through all of the honey, they're not touching it as fast as I want them to,
Mm.
which is kind of sad. But the
Yeah.
other hive, I was not able to check how
hmm
their consumption of the honey is, mainly because
Yeah.
they're
You.
local, right? So
Yeah.
the second hive is local,
Right.
and because of that reason, they were
So they
born
can
locally.
tell. They can tell. I guess basically where the honey is coming from, and it's not like theirs. Is that what it is?
Well, it's not that they're going out and getting honey. It's that they're going out and getting nectar and making that into honey. And
Yeah.
if I'm providing them with sugar water, um,
hmm
they take it up and they start storing it so they can then use it during the winter season.
I see.
But since so one of the hives is called, I call them Alexandria, and the second hive is called Saskatraz. And
hmm
Saskatraz, because the bees come from Saskatchewan. They have a research uh, facility, essentially. You can call it
hmm
up there, and they've been doing research for about 15 years in making
Wow.
the best bees that are not only collecting a lot of honey, but they can
Yeah.
also um, watch out for mite control. So
Okay.
so my mentor came over last weekend, and we gave them 5 gallons of honey,
hmm
and so it was split between the two and a half gallons, 2.5 gallons, and
Yeah.
I was like, all right. He's like, your problem is they're not feeding. Like, well, let's see what happens. So I
Yeah.
checked on them today, and they haven't touched a whole lot of sugar water, the Saskatraz hive, and I wasn't able to get into the Alexandria hive, mainly because somehow the weight of the lid
Yeah.
has like stuck together really hard, and I didn't have my suit on, so I was like, I'm gonna go back in with my
Yeah.
suit on, uh, not to, because what I felt was happening was the top feeder was stuck to the top of the lid, so when I was
Yeah.
picking it up, it was grabbing the whole lid up, and
Oh,
letting
okay.
the bees escape out underneath. And I
Yeah.
think I might have crushed a few.
Oh, Lord.
So
Wow,
that's one
man.
of the issues, right? So when you're a beekeeper, you're gonna
hmm
crush some bees. That's
Yeah, I would imagine
it's a given.
by accident. I'm sure that it doesn't feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Well, that's
So
amazing.
so that's
I've
what
I've
I've been doing.
never I have like zero clue about bees and beekeeping and all that, but I always have been amazed ever since I was a little boy
Yeah, yeah.
at the fact that we have somehow domesticated all of these different creatures,
We
you know.
have, yeah. And
Our
that's essential.
species is definitely all about domestication, man.
It is, it
You
is.
know? whether
it's
it's
so
cows or horses or bees or, you can't seem to get bears domesticated, not yet.
no, not yet. Not yet.
But
They
I'm
don't serve
sure.
a purpose for us at
Yeah,
the moment, right? So that's
yeah,
probably why we don't have we don't eat bears or
yeah, yeah,
because
pretty
that's the
much.
other thing, right? Only we're only allowed to eat hooved animals,
Right?
um, not animals with paws, and that's where the
Sure.
bears come in, and
That's fascinating. Yeah.
even horses are on the boundary of
Yeah.
being consumed. So for about 40 episodes, I've just
Hmm.
been talking about beekeeping. I've talking about actually about
Yeah.
30 episodes talking about beekeeping. And then I started introducing life and started introducing different
Yes.
things into my podcast. And I was like, you know
Yeah,
what?
man.
This is very interesting. It's really good. And I got to
Hmm.
see Gary Vee and
Yes.
Tony Robbins in person
Yeah.
at this event that they came, and I was
Hmm.
so fascinated. So I decided to start talking about these things, talking about personal motivation and personal
Sure.
development motivation, because
Yeah.
it's all part of life. And
It
to be
is.
involved into a hobby, you have to be
Hmm.
personally motivated into
Yeah.
actually doing something with it. And I was like, you know what? It's all, if it's all the same, I don't need to create a separate podcast just to talk about personal development or
Sure.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I
Because
was
it's
like, you know,
just you just
I'm
talk
just gonna
about the things that you have in your own life, right? Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah. That's
I was like,
fantastic.
I added in here, and
Hmm.
and so now the second part of the journey for the podcast is that now I'm talking to people that I've known, that I've connected with in the
Yes.
past 6, 7 months, and
Yeah.
get a take on what it is that motivates them, what it is that they enjoy to do, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So, and that's one of the reasons I reached out to you because I like the story that you told me, and I would like to see if we can get it on the podcast.
Sure, man. Yeah. Life is fascinating.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important aspects of being human is, in my opinion, is that we are born in order to really get to know ourselves deeply and intimately,
Yeah. Huh?
right? Because at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the movie, the person that you have to spend your entire life with is you,
That's right. That's right.
right? And that's why it's important that also that I think early on, in a sense, I became very sensitive to the human condition, right?
Hmm.
And we are all, I think, one of the most interesting things I guess that I've stumbled across by mistake is not by mistake, but rather I wasn't actually searching for it, is what I'm trying to say, right? I
Hmm.
wasn't
Hmm.
searching for a very specific answer,
Yeah.
but um, I noticed very early on that the one human characteristic that is pretty universal is that we all suffer.
Yes.
That
We
that
all
seems
suffer.
to be part of the being here. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't get it as hard and as deep as I did when my first son was born, and then when my second son was born, I was like the whole process, even of coming onto the planet, is one of
Yeah.
it's painful.
It
It's
is. Yeah.
painful. The child is being squeezed out through a birth canal into the world, and so
Yeah.
our first sensations must be very, very uncomfortable, I would imagine. We go from the warmth of the womb, where we're protected, we feel great, and all of a sudden it's cold, and they're
Yeah.
poking us, and we're getting slapped, and the
Exactly.
first thing we do is let out a cry. And
Hmm.
so the fact is that that's one thing that we have to, in my opinion, that we have to really embrace the fact, okay, so this is part of the human condition, so how do we
Yeah.
deal with it? How do we
Yeah.
deal with it? How do we process our own internal pain? How do we come to a place ultimately of resolution and tranquility,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
A place of equanimity or balance, you know? And so in my own history, when I've always been just extremely. I'm a nerd, I'm totally a member of Nerd Nation, right?
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen your posts.
Yeah.
They're very fascinating.
Yeah. So my thing is, and I'm interested by life. I'm interested by life.
Hmm.
And life is absolutely it's so rich and so full of different textures, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's not only like the things that we feel with our senses, but we see it in mathematics, we see
Hmm.
it in music, we see it
Hmm.
in just the act of holding one another, holding a baby.
Yeah,
um, Life is full of textures, it's full of differences, life is full of sensations,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so some of the sensations that we go through as human beings, and because I am a nerd, it always has fascinated me how everything comes with a batch of feelings that we
yeah,
get to feel,
yeah.
right? And I think that in my own studies back in the 1980s, I really started deeply studying. They used to call it fuzzy logic back then, but now it's called artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
And I think that the cornerstone, in order for us to transcend and go from machines because right now machines do think,
Yeah,
but they don't think like we do. There's going to be an element of emotion that is going to be coming from that, right? So the
yeah,
emotional engine, if you will, is something that when that becomes refined and
hmm,
developed and integrated, I believe that's when machines will ultimately be able to have empathy and to be able
yeah.
to also, experience hopefully things that will continue pushing us forward and making us better as a species,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
But I think that that's why, again, that the fact that we do suffer, we have to, as coders and engineers and developers, I think that we have to factor in that our work actually affects people. It
Yeah,
affects people very, very deeply.
it does.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it is part of understanding. I think like when I sit down to code systems and to develop systems, I
Hmm.
always want to approach everything. I always have approached it with these three magic words, which is just like me. I think
Hmm.
that we had a conversation once
Yeah,
about
we
that.
did.
You
Yeah,
are just like me, right?
yeah, yeah.
You want to be loved. You want to be cared for. You want to be respected,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And so in our professions as either entrepreneurs or scientists or people who wash dishes or people who sweep floors, right? Or
Hmm.
window cleaners.
Yeah,
When we approach life and everything that we have in our hand from the aspect of just like me, then if that informs our work and we are conscious to it, we are able to produce products and
mm,
services that are going to, again, they're going to make our species become better.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
such tiny, a tiny little collection of words, just
Very,
like me, right?
just like me. Yeah,
Yeah, and I believe that when we weave compassion and love and kindness
hmm,
and empathy in particular into our work and into
yeah,
our lives,
yeah,
right? Um, we then get to win, if you want to look at it from that standpoint, in the marketplace. We get to grow.
yeah.
The universe is really, really abundant. There's no lack of energy in the
There's no
universe,
lack of it. Yeah,
right?
I totally
There's
agree.
zero lack of. It's what everything is made of. This is
Hmm.
what quantum mechanics has um, taught us, right?
Hmm.
When we have delved into the nature of nature, we see that we are, in fact, made of energy. Every atom in our bodies is actually a vibrational unit. It vibrates. It's an energy. It's
Yeah,
a field, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So there's no lack, but by the same token, I believe that it's up to us, and it's funny that you should be into the whole bee thing. It's up
Hmm.
to us as caretakers when we take
Yes.
on the responsibility of caretaking of nature, right?
Yes.
We have to approach, I believe, again, even the caretaking of bees. We have to do it through empathy. We have to do it through
Yes.
kindness. We have to do it through love.
Absolutely.
It's funny how when I was looking at you and you're talking about the fact that one of the hives may not make it through the winter,
Yeah.
I sensed I sensed your emotion of
Yeah.
like, ah man,
Yeah.
these poor things. The same thing happens with the lid. You're like, oh my
Hmm.
God, I crush these things, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that that's kind of a it's an indication
Hmm.
that we are made of the same stuff that the bee is made of.
Oh yeah.
If we feel for them, it's because we feel that something in us, right,
Yep. Hmm.
just got transformed. Something just happened
Exactly.
that, and it affects us, right?
Yeah.
And again, if we daily, every morning, every evening, every night, if we take a moment to bring to mind and bring to heart our fellow man, our fellow women, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
children of the world. And we ask ourselves actively, continuously, how am I affecting you? How am I affecting you, Janae?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? How am I affecting? And what can I do in order to, just like me, to make it possible for you to really love being alive? How can
Right.
I make your life better? And I think that's really at the heart and soul
It is.
of getting it right? Getting
That's
life
very true.
correct.
And really, really good point. And what's really important in all of that? So just like me, like you are just like me,
Hmm.
and uh, just like I love myself, I love you, and
Right.
for my for myself to be motivated to do something,
Hmm.
um, I need to be either be self motivated or have other people cheer me on.
Right.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
very important as well. In to be motivated, you
Yeah.
look for fans, you look for cheerleaders, or you look at mentors, and
Right.
that's what helps us be better people because now
Yeah.
you're accountable to somebody else. And
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
and that's why religion is so important for so many people because they say, okay, I'm accountable for what I'm doing to
Yeah.
God,
To a higher
right?
power. Yeah.
Or to a higher power, to somebody
Sure.
else.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why religion is so prevalent all over the world in so
Hmm.
many different forms. But now we have a new type of religion where your fans essentially are motivating you on or pushing you onwards. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but sometimes I guess you forget that you have the power within you as well to
Yeah.
grow. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I mean,
Yeah. I if let me reflect on what you just said, right? And
yeah.
I believe what I understood you to say is that in a nutshell, in summary, it's that we have within us, we have a direct connection to the allness. We have a direct connection to everything because we are that. There's no
Hmm.
separating us from the universe. The moment,
Hmm.
if we get plucked out of the universe,
Yeah.
we don't exist,
Yep.
right? Even if so, in other words, um, we do need that external motivation. But I think that life, if you have your eyes open, you'll start noticing as you age, you'll
Yeah.
start remembering, I think, the things that we all know as children, right?
Yeah.
Which is that that we're all connected, you know. We have evolved as animals, if you will.
We
We're
have.
social creatures.
Yeah.
We're completely social animals, right? We're pack animals, for lack of a better. We're no different than the wolf,
No.
right? A wolf is it's can't really survive on its own. It needs
No.
a pack, right?
And humans
And
are
so
similar. Hmm.
Yeah, we're similar. We have, yeah, and we each have roles as well. That's why it's so important to be cognizant of who you exchange energy with, who do you
Yeah.
break bread with. And I don't see it from a standpoint of exclusivity, but rather
Hmm. Hmm.
it's important for us to feed our minds and feed our bodies nutritionally sound food.
Yeah.
And by
Yeah.
that I mean, if you come to me, Junaid, and I belittle you
Yeah.
constantly, and I call you names and this, that, I'm not feeding you, and you're not,
No,
all I'm doing is drawing energy from you like a vampire, right?
that's so true. That is so true.
Right. And that's why, again, it's I think in order for the energy to be tapped from within, from without, we have to create kind of like, a bubble of goodness
Yeah.
where uh, we can then draw energy from.
No, that is
Yeah.
very true. And I was just, as you were reflecting and, explaining in a nutshell what I just said, I thought about what I had said too.
Yeah.
And thinking about, like going back to religion,
Yes.
one of the places that you see a lot of activity is when you have congregation and
Yes.
like
That's right.
Sundays, and you're motivated to go and meet the people and then pray
Sure.
together.
Yeah.
Same thing, and for Muslims, we
Hmm.
pray together. There's five
Yeah.
prescribed prayers, so we
Right.
pray together, and it re-evaluates and
It reinforces, I believe, right?
exactly, it
Yeah.
reinforces the belief and
Yeah.
lights up that fire that's inside of you. So
Yeah.
and that is a very very important um thing, because it is a human nature to
Yeah.
seek that approval or seek that
Yeah.
kind of thing that enables us, okay, I'm doing something right. There's people
Hmm.
doing the same thing, and I'm following in that path.
Hmm.
Now, again, in religion, it is advised that you come to a conclusion to why you're doing something on your own, right? If you're
Right.
not
Yeah.
doing that, then you're just,
Yeah.
you're not
You're
any
being
better.
mindless. You're not being
Exactly.
mindful.
You need to be mindful rather than being mindless. So
Yeah.
that is an
Yeah.
important aspect of it.
Yeah. And it's funny again that nature has patterns that get
Hmm.
reused all the time. We
Oh
see it.
yeah.
We see it like from the atom all the way out to the cosmos, right?
Yes.
And so, in terms of like you were saying, the thing with religion is again that it's a group thing, right?
It is
It's
a
no
group
different
thing.
than the hive. You see the
No,
hives that you are
absolutely.
surrounding yourself with. Again, you see that, yeah, a bee is an amazing, amazing creature,
Yeah.
but the bee is ultimately unable to function on its own.
No, they're not able to function on their own. As soon as they're born,
Yeah,
they start cleaning. They start
yeah,
working with other bees. They
yeah,
get the food, because there's different bees that go outside of the hive that
yeah,
bring the food in, and
right,
then they pass that food over to these other bees who then go and store it in the stores.
yeah,
And then other
yeah,
nurse bees can go to these stores, get the food, and feed it to the larva. And then the
yeah.
whole life cycle repeats. It's
It's an
over and
organism.
over.
It's a meta-organism,
It
right?
is, it is, and
And it's
it,
the same as we are, right?
yeah,
We're a species. We are one mega. It's actually giga because there's like 7 billion of us, right?
exactly, yeah,
7 billion plus already.
yeah,
7
yeah,
billion of us all coexisting on a rock that's
yes,
flying through space at a very high rate of speed.
yeah, yeah,
And and yeah, man, and that's the thing that is really wonderful, is to understand that although we hold different perspectives, we all have different perspectives from a
yeah,
personal standpoint. In other words, my eyes operate differently than your eyes
yeah.
because, well, I am myopic.
Mhm.
My without these glasses, I can't see the world properly, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So the same thing happens in terms of perspective. The entire universe is. Let me see if this doesn't flip over here. Oh, no. All right, good. It adapted itself.
Okay.
So the thing is though that where I was going with this is that religions are it's a perspective. It's an understanding of reality,
Yeah.
right? It's a way for us to strive to have an objective reality. In other words, it's something out there
Yep.
is common to all of us, right? As opposed to the subjective reality that we each exist, right? So
Yeah.
on Earth right now, in the form of a human, there are 7 billion plus unique perspectives on what life and everything is all about.
Yeah.
So essentially, there are 7 billion human universes that are all coexisting, trying to grope with the fact that we're born, we live, we grow, and then we die,
Right.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So we're experiencing the human experience, and we're doing it collectively. But the beauty is that we have all tried as cultures to gain some kind of a common, I guess, identity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's from inside of that idea is where separation is born.
Yep.
It's where I'm like, oh, I was born in Cuba, and I was raised inside of a Christian household, and
Hmm.
eventually through my own decisions and readings and understanding,
Yeah.
if I had a philosophy today that I align myself with, it's Buddhism, but it's nothing more than a perspective, right? I have to understand that as a human being, just like me, your religion is
Hmm.
something that brings you meaning. It gives you a sense of community.
Yeah.
It's your hive, right?
It's my hive. Yep.
It's your hive. And I
Hmm.
have to love your hive
Yeah.
in the same way that you love my hive.
Hmm.
Because it's like, wow, those guys over there, this is the software they're running. They are experimenting with this framework,
Hmm.
this developmental framework over here.
Yeah.
I choose to do it over here in this other developmental framework. But at the end of
Hmm.
the movie, the machine is going to execute something that is
Similar.
um, the results
The results will be similar.
are
Yeah.
going to be similar. The process and the methodologies are different,
Hmm.
but the results are similar. And I think this is where um, the more we turn inward, the more we go inward, and then I start seeing that, look, I have 2 arms, I have 2 legs,
Yeah.
I have a brain, I have a set of kidneys, and so do you, right?
Yep. Yep. We're all the same
Then,
inside.
yeah, then I can start seeing, again, I can start seeing myself within your religion, within your philosophy.
Yeah.
I can start understanding that at the crack of dawn every morning, you wake up and you go out
Hmm.
and you do your best because you're a father just like I am. So
Hmm.
we're just trying our best in order for our children to not to starve to death,
That's right.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that this is why these conversations between people who have different perspectives but have a profound respect and love for one another
Yeah.
so critical for our healthy evolution to continue.
It is. That's so true.
Yeah, because that's the thing, man. We're we're tied at the ankle on a common fate because this
Hmm.
is it's one planet.
It's one planet. Yep.
You
Exactly. We
know,
gotta we gotta watch out for each other.
we do have to watch out for our hive
Yeah.
because
Because yeah, it's so true that you mentioned that in that perspective. Because um, so one of the reasons, right, I just mentioned that the bees might not survive
yeah,
through the winter. It's because they um, since they're an organism,
yeah,
if there is no food, the entire hive dies.
yes,
It's not
no,
that they have some food enough for 2 or 3 bees to survive. No, if,
Nice. Yeah, the
if
whole thing
the
collapses.
whole thing collapses. If there's
Yeah,
any disease, the entire beehive collapses because everybody touches each other
yeah,
and bring
yeah,
value
man.
to each other. So it's similar with
That's
humans.
amazing. Yeah,
It is, and
yeah, that
there's
is amazing. And how it's funny. I had no idea, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had
no.
absolutely zero clue about raising bees and all of
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, I was in the
But
same boat.
what an amazingly profound, spiritually integrative act
Yeah.
it is to sit down and observe those bees and care
Hmm.
for them. Obviously, love them and give them all everything that they need. But
Exactly.
it's like a university.
It is.
You get to stand back and watch and be informed
Yeah,
about what is so critical to us humans as a whole.
it is. And you see them going in and going out, and you could see sometimes you see bees coming back with pollen on the back of their
Yeah,
legs. You're like, oh, they're
yeah,
bringing back pollen.
yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah. That is amazing. Well, I'm
Yeah,
really happy that you are doing that sort of thing because
yeah. I mean,
that's your passion project, and
it is, and
yeah, makes you
I
definitely a better person.
I
You know.
had I had about I think there's about 30 pounds of honey
Hmm,
that they produced this year. But
okay.
I left it in the hive. I was like, you guys use it. You need it
Yeah,
for the week for the
for the
winter,
winter. Yeah,
and then next year, probably springtime, I should have some good amount, probably 100 pounds or so of
yeah,
honey, and then I'm looking to distribute it and send it out to
yeah.
my friends and families because every
Nice.
anytime it comes like, oh, dude, you gonna have honey? Can I buy
Yeah,
some from you? Can I try
yeah,
some? Like
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. That's the entire
That's
reason
awesome,
why I
man.
got the hive set up.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you can do that. And the other thing is, I would imagine that this also teaches you a fair amount of ecology, you know,
It
and
does.
and management of resources. In other words, there's a term that I love, and I learned it when I was very young.
Mm,
I learned it from my parents, and it's let's see, I'm trying to remember the term. Stewardship is in English. It's the term stewardship. In other
mm-hmm,
words, I am a steward. I am a
mm-hmm,
caretaker. I
mm-hmm.
take care of a thing, right?
Yes, yes,
And I would imagine that if my children were much younger, I mean now they're young men. One's 18, the other one's 21.
yeah,
I think I would absolutely, in a heartbeat, I would pick up beekeeping with them
yeah.
in order to teach them hands-on stewardship.
It is. It's absolutely that, and that reminds me of some of the passages from.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to relate it to Jesus, right? So they say that he was a carpenter,
Right.
or so I'm not. I don't know too much about it, but I
Yeah.
do know that the Prophet Muhammad, when he was
Mhm.
growing up, he was raised for the first few years. He was raised by um, so so when any new kids are born, these ladies from the villages and from the open grounds, they would come and they would take these babies and they would breastfeed them back in their
Mhm.
farm essentially. So
Yeah.
the prophet, he was raised by Bibi
Hmm.
Halima, and she fed him, and but when the prophet Muhammad's mother passed away, she
Hmm.
went back. He went back and lived with them before he was older, and he would herd sheep. He was a steward of goats and sheep, and he would tend to them in the yards. So it is a very important, because you're kind of a leader,
Hmm.
but you are more of a facilitator.
Right.
Right.
I
It's
see
not,
that.
I mean, they're sheep. They're not going to listen to you, what you say. You have to facilitate it by other
Yeah,
means.
yeah,
And that's, as a leader, that's something that you have to, I guess, keep in mindfulness of, because they say,
hmm
a leader is not somebody who is pushing you or ordering you around, but rather, show you a way or in which
yeah,
they're practicing themselves. So,
yeah. There's a term that recently I've seen it a handful of times, which is this concept of a servant leader.
mhm.
Right, the leaders that actually are leaders are
Yeah,
the ones who are they're in there with you, man. They're the ones that take the blame and they give you all the glory.
exactly. They're in their weeds.
Yeah, they're deep into it,
Hmm.
and you see it also in terms of there was a study done, I think, with the U.S. Navy. I'm reaching into the Wayback Machine, if you will,
Yeah,
but there was this one study that was made, and the leaders that were actually incredibly successful, none of them, not one of them, was violent or disrespectful towards the people under his or her charge.
yeah, because it
Right?
is a huge responsibility.
It's a massive responsibility. Right?
Hmm.
You're there, and you've bonded with these people, and they're basically essentially there. They're trusting their lives, your
That's right.
very existence.
That's right.
There is in the hands of the leader, of the person that you've chosen to follow.
Yeah.
And that is something amazing, that is really critical, I think, for us to understand,
Hmm.
is that if you call yourself a leader,
Yeah.
it's really a profoundly like, you need to check your ego at the door,
That's right.
really.
That's exactly right. And
Like, go ahead, sorry. Uh-huh.
no, no, go ahead. Keep going.
No, I was just leading up to just the one idea that
Yeah,
you have to check your ego at the door, and you have to understand again
you do.
that your primary function as a leader is to be a cheerleader, to be an encourager of the
Exactly.
other person. You need to be that individual who sees more in another person than you even see in yourself.
Yeah.